The wheelbarrow billionaire. The man with dusty hands. The sun beat down on the dusty village of Ielamu, casting long shadows on the narrow red-soiled roads. At the corner of the bustling market, where traders haggled loudly and children ran barefoot, a man with sweat-soaked clothes and dusty hands maneuvered a rusty wheelbarrow through the crowd. His name was Bako. To the villagers, he was just another poor wheelbarrow pusher, quiet, humble, always minding his business. His skin glistened under the sun, his muscles firm from hard labor, and yet his tattered clothes disguised the regal bearing in his posture. "Move that thing out of my way, you lowlife!" shouted Mama Chichi, a market woman known for her loud voice and sharp tongue. Bako didn't respond. He gently moved his wheelbarrow aside, allowing her to pass. The crowd around laughed. "Look at him," a young man named Taju sneered, pushing that thing like he's going to buy the whole market with his coins. The laughter grew louder. But Bako said nothing. He smiled faintly and continued on his way. No one in Ielamu knew the truth. At night, while the rest of the village slept, Bako would walk out of his tiny one-room hut at the edge of the forest, far from prying eyes. He'd change into a clean, crisp shirt, walk to a black SUV hidden under tarpaulin, and drive an hour to the city, where he owned several companies, real estate properties, and even a private club. By morning, he'd return before the first cock crowed, donning his worn-out clothes once more. He wasn't just hiding, he was watching. For years, Bako had wanted to find something real people, real friendships, real love. Not the fake smiles and gold-digging eyes that followed his billionaire status in the city. And so, here he was, pushing a wheelbarrow, blending into the background, watching how people treated a man with nothing. One evening, after the market had closed and the sky turned amber, Bako noticed a young woman struggling with her crates of unsold vegetables. She was new to the village, quiet, polite, and unlike the others. He approached her. "Need help?" She looked up, surprised. I can manage." He didn't insist. He simply stood nearby and waited as she tried lifting the heavy basket onto her head, but her hands trembled. Without a word, Bako took the crate and placed it in his wheelbarrow. "I'll walk you home." She hesitated, then nodded. As they walked, the villagers whispered and mocked from afar. "Now he's trying to impress her." One woman chuckled. "Poor man has dreams." But the girl didn't care. And that made Bako look at her a little longer. He didn't even know her name. Yet, the wheelbarrow billionaire. Her name was Zara. The path to her home was quiet, lined with neem trees and whispering grass. Bako pushed the wheelbarrow silently, his hands gripping the rough wooden handles as the wheel squeaked under the weight of the vegetables. The girl walked beside him, stealing glances at him when she thought he wasn't looking. After a few minutes, he broke the silence. "I've seen you around. You're new here." She nodded, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. "Yes. I moved here 2 weeks ago. From the city." That caught Bako's attention. "From the city. Big change," he said casually. She smiled. "It is. But peace is better than luxury sometimes." That made him smile too, more than she could see. Finally, someone who spoke like she understood him. They reached a small compound at the edge of the village, neat, modest, with flowering plants and a little clay water pot by the entrance. It was clear she took pride in her space. "Thank you," she said as he placed the crate gently by her doorstep. "You're welcome," Bako replied. She hesitated, then extended her hand. "I'm Zara." He shook it. "Bako." Their eyes met. For a brief second, it felt like the world slowed. From behind a curtain, a pair of eyes peeked through. Her aunt, old Mama Deo, watching with suspicion. Later that night, as Bako returned to his hut, the voices of the villagers echoed in the air. I saw him walking with the new girl. Poor girl doesn't know he's a nobody. She'll soon see his true worth, zero. But Bako had stopped listening to gossip a long time ago. What mattered was Zara. There was something about her, honest eyes, gentle spirit. She hadn't mocked him. She hadn't asked for anything. She had even thanked him, something rare in Ielamu. That night, after showering off the dust, he dressed in his city clothes and drove to his downtown office building. Inside, his secretary greeted him, "Mr. Bako, the board is waiting." He nodded. The conference room was full, investors, managers, and analysts. "Gentlemen," Bako said, standing tall, voice deep and confident, "we'll increase investment in rural infrastructure next quarter. The pilot will begin in a place called Ielamu." The room went silent. "Ielamu, sir?" one man asked. "Why there?" "Because that's where the real future lies," Bako answered with a small smile. When the meeting ended, Bako walked to the top floor of the building and stood by the window, looking out over the glittering city lights. But his mind was on a girl named Zara, and the villagers who laughed too easily. They didn't know who he was. Yet, the village gossip spreads. By sunrise, Ielamu was buzzing. The small village thrived on two things: market sales and gossip. And this morning, gossip won. "I saw him escorting her home," said Titi the tailor, as she stitched a faded wrapper by her shopfront. "Imagine that," Mama Chichi added, balancing a basket on her wide hips. "He thinks because he has muscles, he's now a prince." Laughter followed. The entire village seemed amused that the poorest man in Ielamu was chasing the new girl from the city. But Zara, she didn't care. When Bako passed by her stall later that morning, she waved at him with a warm smile. The villagers stared in disbelief. "You're greeting him in public," one woman whispered loudly. Zara turned to her and replied calmly, "Yes. He helped me. And he's kind." Bako's heart stirred at her words, though he kept his expression neutral. He knew the village, they would twist her kindness into a joke, a weakness. But Zara seemed stronger than their whispers. As the days passed, Bako and Zara began talking more often. He helped her set up her stall. She sometimes packed him a small bowl of food. It was innocent, yet the air between them grew warmer with each interaction. One day, as they walked by the riverbank, Zara asked the question he had been dreading. "Bako, who are you really?" He paused, pretending to be confused. "What do you mean?" She shrugged. "You speak like someone who's seen the world. You listen more than most. You help without expecting praise. And you don't act like a man broken by poverty." Bako chuckled, hiding the flutter in his chest. "Maybe I'm just good at pretending." She smiled. "Or maybe you're just different." Back at the market, Mama Deo, Zara's aunt, had had enough. That evening, she stormed into their home, arms folded across her chest. "Zara, you've been seen with that wheelbarrow boy again." Zara looked up from the vegetables she was sorting. "His name is Bako. I don't care if his name is the president's." Mama Deo snapped. "He's a nobody. You left the city for peace, not for poverty." Zara stood her ground. "He treats me with more respect than most men I knew in the city." "That matters." Mama Deo hissed and stormed off. Meanwhile, Bako sat on the porch of his hut, watching the stars. He knew it was time. Soon, he would reveal his true identity, not just for Zara, but to remind the village that worth isn't worn in clothes or measured by gossip. He would shake the very soil of Ielamu. and the laughter they poured on him, it would soon catch in their throats. The return and the challenge. When Tamu returned to Angelica, it was as if the land itself had changed. The once green fields were now dry and cracked. The river had shrunk to a narrow trickle. The trees bore no fruit. Faces that once smiled now carried worry and defeat. Even the air seemed heavier, as if the village breathed in sorrow. Word of his return spread like wildfire. That orphan has come back. Didn't he leave in shame? Why would he return now, after all these years? But those who saw him noticed something different. He no longer walked with the timid steps of a boy. His shoulders were straight, his gaze calm. On his back was a drum, dark, smooth, sacred. His presence carried something unfamiliar, something powerful. Tamu walked straight to the center of the village and sat beneath the talking tree, a massive baobab where decisions and stories were shared. The elders gathered slowly, whispering among themselves. Children peered from behind their mother's legs. Then came Chief Makono, still draped in his leopard skin, though his hair had thinned and his face was marked with age. Makono narrowed his eyes. "What brings you back, drum breaker?" "I bring rhythm," Tamu said simply. "The kind this village has forgotten." Makono laughed bitterly. "Rhythm. We need water, not music. We need food, not songs." "I can bring both," Tamu said. "But only if you let me drum." The villagers murmured. Some laughed. Others were curious. One of the elders stepped forward, Mama Sc, known for her wisdom. She studied Tamu carefully. "You speak boldly for someone once cast out." "I speak because I have learned," Tamu replied. "In the mountains, I found a rhythm that speaks to the sky, to the soil, to the soul. Let me drum, and the rain will return." Makono scoffed. "So now you call yourself a rainmaker?" "No," said Tamu. "I am a listener. And I've listened to the land. It is tired. It is silent. But it still remembers the rhythm that made it dance." The challenge was clear: drum and bring rain, or admit defeat and leave the village forever. Makono stepped forward. "Very well. We will give you until sundown. If the skies remain dry, you will never return." Tamu nodded. "I accept." That afternoon, the villagers gathered around the square. The fire was lit, though it barely held a flame in the dry air. Tamu sat cross-legged in the center, his drum before him. The people watched in silence, some skeptical, some secretly hopeful. Even Makono sat, arms crossed, but his eyes fixed on the boy who had once embarrassed him. Tamu closed his eyes. He breathed in. Then, with hands steady and heart full, he began to drum. The rhythm started soft, like the flutter of leaves in wind. Then it deepened, like the whisper of rain long forgotten. With each beat, the villagers felt something stir. Memories, feelings, echoes of a time when their land was alive and laughing. His drum spoke of birth and harvest, of grief and healing, of children's laughter and ancestors' chants. The sound danced into the earth and rose into the sky. The wind changed. A breeze rolled through the square, lifting skirts and flapping headwraps. The trees swayed. A hush fell over the people. Then, a drop. Just one, falling on Tamu's cheek. Another. Then another. Within minutes, the heavens opened. Rain. Cold, sweet, and sudden. The people screamed in joy. Children danced barefoot. Old men wept openly. Women knelt and raised their hands to the sky. And Tamu kept drumming, even as the water soaked his clothes and beat his drum in harmony. The earth drank it hungrily. The river began to swell. Makono stood frozen, his face unreadable. Then slowly, he walked to the boy, who now stood tall, drum in hand. You have done what even our priests could not, he said. His voice was hoarse. You are no longer a boy. You are the voice we lost. He knelt before Tamu. I broke your drum, he said. But you fixed our spirit. Tamu placed a hand on the chief's shoulder. It was never about the drum. It was about listening. From that day on, Tamu was given a place among the elders, not because of age, but because of wisdom. He was named the keeper of rhythm, and his beats were called upon during births, funerals, harvests, and storms. The village flourished again, not just with crops and rain, but with unity, song, and heart. Because the rhythm had returned. The rhythm that healed. The village of Angelica had changed. Since Tamu's return and the rain he summoned, the dry fields had turned green. The river now sang with life, and children ran through the grasses with bare feet and full bellies. The once fading drums of Angelica beat again, louder, prouder, deeper. But it wasn't just the land that healed. It was the people. Tamu became more than a drummer. He became a bridge. He taught young boys to carve drums with patience and young girls to play them with power. He sat with elders beneath the baobab tree, drumming not for entertainment, but for wisdom. And every evening, as the sun melted behind the hills, he would play a special rhythm, one that called to the hearts of everyone who could hear. But something troubled him quietly. As his name grew, so did the pride of those around him. The same villagers who had once mocked him now praised him too much. Some said he was a spirit reborn. Others whispered he could talk to gods. Tamu felt the weight of those words pressing on his shoulders. He remembered Mama Zuri's warning. Play not for praise, not for power. Play for truth. And one day, the truth came knocking. A traveler arrived from the neighboring village of Caravana, his face pale and voice trembling. Our people are dying, he said. The drums have fallen silent. The sickness spreads. We've lost children. Even the land rejects us. Tamu looked at Chief Makono. I must go. Makono hesitated. You've given us so much. If you leave, what will we do? Tamu smiled gently. I didn't give you rhythm. I reminded you of it. It's already within you. Now I must remind them. With his drum slung across his back, Tamu set off toward Caravana. The journey took 2 days. When he arrived, the village was a shadow of Angelica. The huts were cracked. The people weak and quiet. Flies hovered where laughter should have lived. He found the village square, once home to dance and stories, now silent as a graveyard. He knelt in the center. And began to drum. At first, no one came. His rhythm echoed through empty spaces and broken homes. But slowly, a child peeked out. Then another. An old woman leaned on a cane and whispered to a friend. Before long, a circle formed. Tamu's drum didn't sing of rain or strength. It hummed of pain, of loss, of memories of what once was. And as he played, tears began to fall, not from the sky, but from eyes long dried. Then he changed the rhythm. He played hope. He beat a song of rising again, of healing, of remembering joy. A boy tapped a stone beside him. A girl clapped softly. An elder picked up a dried gourd and shook it gently. And soon, the square was alive with sound. For the first time in months, Caravana breathed again. Tamu stayed for a week. He taught them how to drum their pain into peace. He showed them that healing was not only in medicine, but in connection, to each other, to the earth, to their past. When he finally rose to leave, the village gathered. Stay, they begged. Tamu shook his head. I am only a reminder. You must keep the rhythm alive. As he walked away, the sound of Caravana's drums followed him. Back in Angelica, time passed. Tamu grew older. His hair grayed, and children who once learned under him now taught their own. But still, every evening, he played that same rhythm under the baobab, steady, soft, sacred. One day, a young boy approached him with wide eyes and a carved piece of broken wood. "Grandfather," he said, "I found this near the river." "What is it?" Tamu smiled, recognizing it at once, the splintered piece of his first drum, broken by Chief Makono all those years ago. "That," he said, "was the drum that once spoke my pain." The boy looked confused. "But it's broken." "Yes," said Tamu. "And it made me whole." He placed the piece gently in the boy's hands. "Take it. Make something new. The rhythm is already in you." The boy beamed and ran off. Tamu leaned back, eyes to the sky, hands resting on his beloved drum. He listened. The wind danced through leaves. Children laughed in the distance. A woman pounded yam nearby. And beneath it all, he heard the same thing he always did. Rhythm. Because in every broken thing, in every silence, in every heart, the drum still speaks.